Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net at CES 2015. I am joined by Richard Garriott, also known as Lord British. And Richard worked on the Ultima series. Now we're talking about Shroud of the Avatar, which is a spiritual successor to Ultima. All this content brought to you by CyberPower, Cyber Vapor Gaming PC. Right now we're talking about user-created content. So can you give us a top-level sort of philosophy for your user-created approach?
Yeah, well, one of the things we realized fairly early on in Shroud of the Avatar was, just like Ultima Online, we wanted to have a highly interdependent crafting capability for players that makes the economy very healthy. But once we started down that path, we realized that we could actually get completely out of the way of players if we basically got out of creating content. And what I mean by that is that every sword, every chair, every piece of clothing is not only are the resources gathered by the player community and those things created by the player community, but they all have maker's marks, and they all have history. And so even the epic loot that in other games you might see that the team has created and attaches to a particular drop. In our case, as the players create items, and as those items gain history and are imbued with magical powers, if they are either lost or sold to stores in the game, instead of destroying them, we bank them. And then later, when a skeleton in a dungeon needs a sword, it goes to that bank and withdraws a player-created sword with an actual history. And so we're taking that really as far as we can. We're trying to get out of the content creation game entirely, making all of the best things in the game player-created.
What are you doing in terms of worrying about balancing with the economy or flooding the economy? Is that sort of what your reallocation is handling?
Exactly, and so all the same resources are going into the game, and the drains to take them out of the game, as you might find in the way to traditionally balance the economy of a game. We just, instead of keeping that outside value in gold, we actually keep it the stock of everything that's been made previously. And so, there may be an occasion, if the game really needs a bunch of axes and the players have never made axes before, that the game will invent a few generic axes to populate the world with. But we're already finding that players are creating, tools and equipment much faster than the game needs to spawn them. And so we don't have a resource problem in that sense. We'll actually end up ultimately destroying some that are unneeded versus ever probably having to create content again.
And we were speaking about music pre-interview, so my understanding is that the players got together and worked on some of your music for the game. Can you give us a bit of history on that? Yeah,
in fact, it's way more than some at this point. It's actually all of the music. It's funny that when we were going down since we're a crowd-funded game, we're trying to be very frugal with every dollar. And so when it came around to music, I was lamenting the fact that that I either had to allocate this very large amount of money for music, or take music on that I was really not happy with. Either stuff that you could get with an inexpensive license that was already pre-written, for example. And the community stepped up and said and tried to offer some suggestions or some creations. And originally, frankly, it was a lot of techno stuff and stuff that just be inappropriate. And so as I was turning them down and not finding this answer, the community actually self-organized, created the group called the Poets Circle, and they got together and said, Richard, give us a really detailed description of what it is you're looking for. And I said, well, good luck, but here, but I spent a couple of days writing up in detail what I was actually looking for and analyze all the music and all the Ultimas that I'd done in the past, which ones I liked, which ones I didn't, and why. And they went, okay, we get it. And they went off by themselves for about 2 months. And after about 2 months, they had developed a whole process. They had run their own Kickstarter to get new equipment and new software and new sound samples. And they began to critique each other's work. And at the end of that period, they produced maybe 5 originally, and all 5 I was incredibly excited about, put them all 5 in the game, and now every piece they've made since has made it into the game with few, if any, comments.
And how about other aspects of the game for player-created content, art or sound effects or things like that?
Yeah, and so we do art. Probably 5 or 10% of the art right now is crowd or community created, and we're helping the community get better at that. So we'll probably be doing more of that. Sound effects is something we're just now moving on to. That'll be ultimately 90-95% all player created. And we even have an example of code. We have this thing called the Avatars Radio, which started as a website just broadcasting news and music and information about the game through a webcast. But then the community got together and made literally a physical radio object, and then wrote the code that we could just drop into the game that simulcasts that radio station into the game, and as a 3D position object. And so now that is used for, people go up and give plays, people give sermons on the virtues, people simulcast all the PvP tournaments into the game by voice. It's actually turned out to be a very exciting feature that was conceived, created, and written all by the community.
Do you have an in-fiction explanation for this object?
We do, and fortunately, we had already introduced a little bit of technology in the game. So sort of Tesla coil-like energy fences and things already existed, and the bigger cities already have wind power, water power, or geothermal power to power some of this little bit of technology that was in the game. So since we already had that little bit of electrical tech, it was a good enough excuse for us to say that a radio could work in those cities as well.
Now, a lot of companies that do user-created content, Valve is an easy example, will compensate their users. Are you doing that?
Actually, we are. In fact, we believe fundamentally anybody helping us make the game is saving us time and money, and so we offer cash bounties on everything that we can think of that we think the community might be able to do. We put a bounty assigned to that, and then people are allowed to take that bounty as cash, which some do. Although more often people take it, we also offer twice that cash bounty as in-game pledge value. And the majority of people take the pledge value in a way to kind of sponsor their own habits of playing the game.
Yeah, fund the habit, as it were. So, close this out here. Where can people go to learn more about Shroud of the Avatar?
Shroudoftheavatar.com. So come join us if you were ever a fan of the Ultima series, or if you're too young to have played it, but I've heard good things about it. This is the spiritual successor in our mind. So come join us in the lands of New Britannia. Come see me, Lord British. I play the game every day. Come play with me as well. Shroudoftheavatar.com.
Very cool. More coverage on the website, gamersnexus.net, or linked in the description below. We thank Richard for your time, of course.
Thank you.
And I will see you all next time.